I'm Trent Kelly, and I'm fortunate to be a Major General in the Mississippi Army National Guard, and I'm the Assistant Adjutant General, Army. I come from Union, Mississippi. It's a pretty small town, probably 1,200 people. Played all kind of sports when I was there. My dad was in the Guard, so it was kind of one of those things that I always wanted to do because my dad did it. I'd see him go off and I'd see him come back. And so we've always been kind of a military family. And in Union was a small town. The teachers cared about you, the people cared about you. You couldn't get in too much trouble because everybody knew who you were and knew who your parents were. So it's one of those small town experiences that I wish everyone could have, because the way that community loved their people and took care of them is something we should emulate across America. I remember going to church at Neshoba Baptist Church when I was 5, 6 years old, and they would ask veterans to stand up on either Veterans or Memorial Day. And seeing those World War II veterans at the time, who I thought were old men, they were all of 40 years old, they would stand up and they would be so proud about serving their country for that 3 or 4 years of their life. And I just never forgot that feeling. I wanted to do something that made me as proud as those men appeared to be when they stood up in church. It was the Reagan years. So when I turned 18, my first presidential election was Reagan. It was America regaining strength. We had the great Soviet Union, which was threatening us, and I think all of us joined because we thought there was going to be a fight between us and the Soviet Union, and we wanted to be part of it. So it was that great American spirit, and so it was just a way to serve, and I wanted to serve. The shock at basic training when they cut your hair. You know, I had those long flowing locks, which I can't grow anymore. But just going to basic training and the way that they did it then, it was a shock to the existence. Even though I was physically fit and played all those high school sports, just the discipline was unlike anything you'd ever seen before. You know, and I had a very disciplined house at home. But it's a whole lot different when you lose contact with all those things so close to you, and then you reform as a team and you're even closer. I think serving in the military, you form a bond with people that you can't form any other way. It's almost like a family bond, except with people you didn't know before. Thinking back, as a lieutenant, I got into the unit that I'd always been at. They sent me to Carthage, and I was mad because I didn't get to go be with all my friends in Union, but that was good for me. And when we did that, we got mobilized, or we started with the NTC rotation in 1989, where I was the lieutenant. So as a young lieutenant in the 155 Brigade, all we did was train at Fort Hood or the National Training Center. And so that was very formative in developing me as a young officer and knowing, hey, this isn't fun and games, this is serious business. And, you know, and then we mobilized in 1990. And so being part of that mobilization for Desert Storm, I think that had a very formative nature on my career, because we learned we're preparing to go to war, and that's exactly what we were doing. And then I married my wife in 1990 during the mobilization. We got married Christmas Eve 1990 on a 3-day pass while I was mobilized. And she has been just the rock during this entire 34 years that we've been married. But I mean, they've had to endure so much. You know, you see what it puts your family through, your wife, your children, when you're gone for long periods of time, when you miss birthdays, when you miss anniversaries, when you miss weddings. I missed the birth of my child and the death of my father while deployed. And you just see what it costs, and we can't do that without that strong foundation of a strong family at home who sacrifice just as much in every way that we do. I've literally seen people's careers crumble because they did not have that support system. Mine was always so easy because whether it was my mother or my wife or my children, knowing you had that support, knowing that you had that strong partner who was taking care of everything at home, when you get in a combat situation or you're deployed downrange, to not have to worry about those things and just have that peace of mind and comfort to know that your spouse or loved one is taking care of it, I don't know how anyone could do it without having that. The most gratifying experience I've had in the Guard was being able to be a battalion commander and lead a battalion into combat. It amazes me sometimes to watch people retire and to have anything, any amount of bitterness towards maybe not making the next position or getting promoted and those things. And I'm gonna tell you, when I got back from battalion command after having deployed as an S3, I think that is that's the pinnacle of any career for the United States of America, the greatest power in the history of the world, to entrust you with 500 to 800 people to lead them in combat. I don't know what's a pinnacle to that, and I was fortunate enough to take 670 soldiers and bring 670 home. And so I don't know that I'll ever have an accomplishment in life that is anywhere close to that. You know, I tell people every day, to be a battalion commander in combat, you have to have three things. And without those three things, you will not be successful. First of all, you have to know that there's a power greater than you, that is more important than you. And for me, that's Jesus Christ, that's the Lord. And I know that He has the things taken care of that are beyond my control. Number two, you have to have a great sergeant major, because you hate your boss. You're competing with your peers, and the people that work for you hate you. So if you're doing your job right, because you have to get business done, but your sergeant major is your battle buddy. He's someone, he or she's someone who can talk to you, and mine was Steve Denmark, and he could calm me down. He could make sure that I knew I wasn't in it alone. So that sergeant major is so important, and he can tell you things that are going on in your formation that you don't know. And then your chaplain. And I know that kind of ties to the first one, but your chaplain also can come in there and he can pray with you at the right time. He can calm you down. He can see when you're overly stressed. He can tell when you need to take a break. And I think that's so important. And he can also tell you things that are going on with your soldiers as a general rule, not specific soldiers, but throughout your formation, he can let you know things about your formation that you otherwise might not know. So a power greater than you, whatever that may be, a sergeant major who's your best friend and your battle buddy, and your chaplain, you gotta have those three things to be successful. Well, I started out after undergrad. I went to work for McRae's department store, and I went through their management training program, which was a state-of-the-art management training program, much like what the Army would have. Enjoyed working for them. Went back to law school after being mobilized for Desert Storm, and once I got out of law school, when I went, I thought I wanted to be a rich corporate lawyer, and then I decided, well, I really didn't care that much about being rich. And I really wanted to represent people that grew up in the same way that I did. So it kind of changed my perspective of who I was representing. So I just went into solo practice by myself. I didn't want to work for anybody, and people said it was impossible, you can't do that. I figured it out. I had to be crazy to do that, but I think it rounded me in ways that I couldn't have done had I relied. But you know, we always like to say I did things by myself, or you know, it was just me. But in life, that's just not the case. It takes a team, and for every success you have as a person, there are hundreds, if not thousands of people who are doing things, many not seen, that help you reach that next objective. Wound up after private practice, being the city prosecutor for Tupelo. I really enjoyed that. Most people say prosecutor, you put people in jail, and you do that, bad people. But you also have an opportunity to help a lot of people who have made stupid decisions or stupid mistakes, and they're not bad people, or sometimes they just haven't had the right upbringing to understand what's right. So I got to help a lot of people, got to put some people in jail who deserved it, and I hope that God gave me the discernment and wisdom to know the difference. I feel like He did, and then decided I wanted to run for district attorney, and did. And first time I lost. I think that's important for people to understand. You don't always win, but I lost the first time, but I kept running, and 4 years later I won. So I beat a 36-year incumbent to become district attorney. But I would have probably still be district attorney today, but Congressman Nunley passed away with a brain tumor. And when it opened, I just go, wow, this is an opportunity to help more people. And we gave it a shot in a 13-person race. We wound up winning. I think it shocked a lot of people, not me. You know, I truly believe you're willing to work hard enough and you're willing to invest everything. You don't always win, but you'll always be in the ball game. We are recognizing the men and women who died in service of this great nation. It was a little more difficult when I first got elected because I was a brigade commander. I already had a general officer certificate in the process. But being elected and then being a brigade commander, that was much more difficult because there was the opportunity to be federalized. And had I been federalized, I would have had to make a choice. Do I resign from Congress or do I resign from the Guard? General Mattis, Secretary Mattis asked me that question, and I said, well, Mr. Secretary, if you give me a BCT or higher command, I'm going to war and I'll resign from Congress. But if you try to make me a staff officer, I'm going to stay in Congress and resign from the Guard. And I truly meant that. I want to go be a part of something and lead men, not be a part. When I'm a congressman, I'm a congressman. And when I'm in this uniform, I'm a general. What you'll learn is in the civilian world and the military world, they go hand in hand. Leadership skills in the Army are the same as leadership skills in an organization or in a law office. And so learning how to leadership, dealing with people in the Army is dealing with people in whether it's Congress or as a lawyer or talking to a jury. But I think the core set of values that you learn in the Army and that you live, you know, you learn a lot of things in life in books and other things. But if you think about it, the selfless service, integrity, honor, duty, all those things, nowhere, no other organization do I know where it's lived like it's lived in the Army. You know, I've never really noticed a transition in anything. I always say the best job you got is the job you got right now. And you don't focus on the next one, you focus on doing it extremely well. You focusing on doing it from the day you take over until the day you end. And sure, there's a sharp learning curve in every new position, but the job before that has prepared you to do that thing. Either watching the people before you do it and learning from them, or either the things you learned in the past job. And I think it's so important that young people understand you're prepared to do that. The only thing you need is an opportunity, but don't worry about the next job, worry about the one you're in, and once it gets there, you'll adjust, you've had the right training. And I think talking to young officers, that's one thing. Sometimes they want to get promoted so quick, and they want to move up, and I want to be a company commander before you've been an XO. All those stepping stone jobs are important to prepare you for the next one. So even if you get a battalion command, if you get a battalion command but you've never been an S3 and an XO, I can assure you it's either going to be a rough go or unsuccessful command. But if you've done all the prerequisites and the pre-checks and you were the S1 or the S4, or you were the XO or the S3, and then you were a battalion commander, you kind of know what to expect. And I feel that way in my Guard career. I never progressed too quickly. And I always did the hard jobs, and that's the other thing. Always take the hard jobs. They're difficult, take a lot more time, but they also prepare you for more. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I would hope in my 40-year military career, and the same can be said in the halls of Congress, I build personal relationships with people and I genuinely care. And when they see that, they're willing to forgive a lot of shortcomings. You know, they had the old saying, 1 week in a month and 2 weeks a year. If you're a traditional guardsman and you think you're gonna make general doing that, you'd be wrong. It takes much more. It takes hours in between that you don't get paid for. It takes constant thinking about. It takes doing extra weekends and extra days wherever you can. Read, read, and read. Study history. Treat people with respect and dignity until there comes a time. There's some people you can't do that for, but you'll know when that time is. But otherwise, if they'll allow you, treat them with respect and dignity, treat them as equals, unless the time calls for you to say, I don't have time to take questions right now, do this. But I think it really matters. And soldiers, I think, look to your level of professional competence, and you can't become that competent without putting extra time in, extra hours, reading, talking to others and learning from their experiences. And as a young soldier, choose your mentors well. Choose your mentors well. They don't always choose you. Find people you want to emulate or be like, but also understand they're not perfect and they're going to have flaws. So ignore their flaws, learn from them and don't repeat them, but learn all the good things you can from them and enjoy every single day of it. When it's over, it's over. And I'm getting close to the end now. And I can truthfully say that I feel like I've gotten everything out of the Mississippi National Guard that I put into it. And I've put in a lot. There's a cost to that, but it's worth every second. And so everything you do is either developing soldiers or developing formations. And I think that's the legacy we leave. A lot of times people won't even know it was you who caused this. But at the end of the day, I think you can be proud and look in the mirror. Always do things that when you wake up in the morning and nobody else knows and you look in the mirror shaving, you can say, I'm proud of yesterday. And you need to do that every day of your military career.